The 2014 to 2020 Lexus IS Sports Sedan. We are going to talk about some basic specs regarding this vehicle, and then we are going to move on to some interesting facts that you probably did not know regarding the sedan, and then we're going to talk about the various model year changes that happened between 2014 to 2020. So what is the Lexus IS? It is a sports sedan meant to compete with things like the BMW 3 Series and the Mercedes C-Class of the time. The overall length of this Lexus IS was approximately 183.7 inches long. It had a 110.2 inch long wheelbase. Many people keep asking if they should buy the IS over the GS. Truth be told, they pretty much drive nearly identical. Same thing with the RC. They all have the same great organic driving quality that I really appreciate. The 2013 to 2020 Lexus GS was 190.7 inches long total, so literally 7 inches longer than the Lexus IS, but the wheelbase was only 2 inches longer. But the Lexus GS did offer 4 inches more legroom in the rear compared to the IS that we're talking about here. And I believe the Lexus GS also had approximately 2 inches more shoulder room, both in the front and the rear, compared to the IS. And the trunk was also slightly larger than the IS as well. Headroom was pretty much the same between both the GS and the IS. So up to you if that size difference matters to you, but there is a difference. The GS is technically the larger car, of course. Now, when the IS initially came out in 2014, it was available with two engine options. The IS 250 model, which came with a 2.5 liter V6 engine that's naturally aspirated, producing 204 horsepower and 185 pounds-feet of torque. One of the cons with this engine is the fact that it was only direct injected, meaning you're probably going to run into some form of carbon buildup issues down the road, whereas the IS 350 did not have this issue. This vehicle had a 3.5 liter naturally aspirated V6 engine pushing out 306 horsepower and 277 pounds-feet of torque. And the reason why the IS 350 does not have carbon buildup issues is because it is both direct and port injected. And something else you have to keep in mind is Lexus recommends using 91 premium octane with both the IS 250 and the IS 350. Sadly, I don't really think too many owners really did that, so it's highly possible in the used car market when you go to pick one up, the car literally just had, regular fuel running through it for its entire lifetime, right? So it is what it is. That's just one of the things you have to keep in mind when you're buying a used car. The curb weight of the Lexus ISs ranged between 3,461 pounds all the way up to 3,737 pounds. And that's for the heaviest IS 350 all-wheel drive model. So you were able to get all-wheel drive with either the IS 250 and the 350. Weight distribution was pretty good. It was 54% in the front, 46% in the rear for the rear-wheel drive models, and it was 55-45 for the all-wheel drive models. And we also had a fuel capacity of 17.4 gallons. Another aspect about Lexus that I really like is the ground clearance on a lot of these Lexus products. It's really good. It is between 5.1 to 5.3 inches. So you literally do not have to worry about speed bumps, speed humps, anything like that. You can clear that easily. The IS 250 models came with a 6-speed automatic transmission only. However, the IS 350 rear-wheel drive model got a 8-speed automatic that was taken directly out of the Lexus ISF. But the IS 350 all-wheel drive came with a 6-speed automatic transmission as well. We had proper suspension tuning here. We had a double wishbone front suspension and a multi-link rear suspension that was taken directly out of the 2013 to 2020 generation of the Lexus GS. Same thing with the steering rack. We had a new electric powered steering rack here for the 2014 and up Lexus IS. That was also taken directly out of the Lexus GS. In regards to 0 to 60, the IS 250 did 0 to 60 in 7.7 seconds. The all-wheel drive IS 250 did it in 8.3 seconds. The IS 350 rear-wheel drive was the fastest at 5.6 seconds. And the IS 350 all-wheel drive clocked in at 5.7 seconds. The highest top speed also went to the rear-wheel drive IS 350. It can do 143 miles per hour, and the fuel economy numbers weren't bad actually. A rear-wheel drive IS 350 did 19 in the city, 28 out on the highway. The highway MPG dropped by 2 if you went with the all-wheel drive 350, and the IS 250 that was able to get 21 city, 30 on the highway, or 20 city, 27 highway if you got the all-wheel drive IS 250. Coefficient of drag was also rather low. It was between 0.28 to 0.29. Okay, now that we have covered those basic specs, let's go ahead and let's go through some of the interesting facts now. Obviously, we all know that this 2014 Lexus IS introduced that spindle grille. However, it is different from the GS and the LS spindle grills. And maybe you already noticed this, but the Lexus IS has a more 3D effect to its spindle grille, almost like the LC500 actually. Not quite like that, but it's very similar. So I thought that was pretty cool. The Lexus IS really trying to be that cool, sporty vehicle. So that's one of the first facts I wanted to bring to your attention. And yes, they did of course have that F Sport package available that had the unique 18-inch wheels and special suspension tuning. It also came with unique interior and exterior designs, and it had the adaptive variable suspension, and you had your various drive modes like your eco, your normal, and your sport that you can play with. This new generation of the IS also had a much stiffer chassis, and how do they do that? Well, they utilize new construction techniques such as laser screw welding and adhesive body bonding that helps to provide a substantial increase in overall body rigidity. We also had a new rear subframe and cowl side braces, which also enhanced the handling control and the steering response. The revised front suspension with a 20% increase in sway rigidity and a new multi-link rear suspension also helped to increase grip and control. And as I already mentioned, that multi-link rear suspension pretty much came out of the Lexus GS. Same thing with the electric power steering rack. Other improvements compared to the previous generation, it's the fact that we have a longer wheelbase and a special front seat design, which is going to overall increase the rear seat legroom by 1.6 inches compared to the previous generation IS sedan. We also had 60/40 split folding rear seats, which not even the Lexus ES comes with that. And that's insane because the ES is a front-wheel drive car and the Lexus IS is a rear-wheel drive vehicle. Usually it's the rear-wheel drive cars that typically don't have folding rear seats because most car companies run some type of bracing through those rear seats to help with the rigidity. However, in this case, Lexus intelligently designed the IS to have the split folding rear seats, but they always ran their bracing through the back seats of the ES, which is very strange, very bizarre. That always made the ES an impractical vehicle because you can never fold down the rear seats, but here in the sports sedan you can. So I never understood the thinking behind that. I wish the Lexus engineers would have figured out a way to make the ES come with folding rear seats. But anyway, of course we had a very LFA supercar inspired interior space, you know, especially with those F Sport models with the moving digital gauge cluster, right? That physical / digital gauge cluster. Very cool. Pretty much the best gauge cluster I have ever seen in any car, even till this day. Even though it's like over 10 years old now, I still can't get over that gauge cluster. It's by far my most favorite. The dashboard is divided into two distinct zones, a display zone and a operation zone, offering drivers a more comfortable and more ergonomic interaction with the vehicle's control systems. And just to be more precise, the wheelbase of the 2014 IS, it actually increased by approximately 3 inches, and also the width of the new 2014 IS, that also increased by approximately half an inch compared to the previous generation. So that's just one more thing I want to add regarding that. And of course, you had the very excellent Mark Levinson audio system here as an option, and this was a 15 speaker 835 watt unit that was introduced with this 2014 Lexus IS. And there was an interesting fact I want to share with you regarding Mark Levinson and Lexus. So apparently no formal contract had ever been signed with Lexus, yet the relationship remains driven solely by a mutual desire for excellence, according to a Lexus press report from Europe. Now this is back in 2013, so perhaps now I'm sure Mark Levinson and Lexus have some type of formal contract now, but it's just interesting that even up until 2013, no formal contract had ever been signed between Lexus and Mark Levinson. They were just working together just so they can make the best audio experience in a car, because that's very important, because it's actually very difficult to make a car audio system, because the size, the shape, and the lack of consistent surfaces within a car's cabin poses enormous problems for a successful high-end audio system in a car. So for that reason, a Mark Levinson sound system is not just added to a Lexus car, but instead it is built in as a part of the vehicle's design. Engineering a system for a specific acoustic qualities of any individual Lexus is a collaborative process that can take up to 20,000 hours. So because every Lexus car is different and the shape and the size and everything is different, Mark Levinson has to make and build the ML audio system to fit that perfect car, that particular car, with that particular shape and everything, and it can take up to 20,000 hours. That is just insane for one car. And regarding safety features, the IS actually came with a lot of great features. At least it was available, right? Maybe not all of it was standard, but a lot of great things were available, like the lane departure alert, blind spot monitoring, rear cross traffic alert, pre-collision system, things like that. That's all great features, especially for 2014. But those were all of the interesting facts that I wanted to share with you regarding the Lexus IS. Let's go ahead and let's talk about the various model year changes, because that is pretty important. In 2014, obviously, that's when the car first came out. 2015 actually saw no new changes. However, 2016 was a very important year because Lexus got rid of the IS 250 and that 2.5 liter V6 engine. They instead replaced that model with a IS 200T, which is a turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. And they also introduced a new all-wheel drive IS 300 model, which also utilizes the 3.5 liter V6 engine. It's just a more detuned version of the IS 350 3.5 liter V6 engine, just makes a little bit less power. They also made the 18-inch wheels standard across the board for all of the Lexus IS models. In 2017, the IS models pretty much got a cosmetic refresh. We saw a revised front styling with a new grille, new headlights, and the rear end, we saw some new taillights and some new exhaust tips as well. And all the Lexus IS models in 2017 got additional standard safety features for the 2017 model year, including forward collision, warning and mitigation, and there was also some new minor interior changes as well in 2017. In 2018, the Lexus IS 350 got a little bit more horsepower, and the rear-wheel drive F-Sport models got a limited slip differential, and they also made adaptive front headlights as an option. 2019, new upgraded LED headlights were an option, and we also got Amazon Alexa integrated voice commands. And 2020, that was the last model year of this generation of the Lexus IS sedans. For this last model year, they just introduced a Blackline edition, and that was it. And those are pretty much all of the changes that you need to know between the 2014 to 2020 model years of the Lexus IS. I just want to end on this last note here. So in 2014, when the IS sedan was released, the IS 350 model was priced to be 2.1% lower than the model that it replaces, and over $1,400 in previously optional equipment was made standard in 2014. So as you just saw, I went through that extensive list of upgrades and features and changes for this new generation of the IS compared to the previous generation that it replaced, and it was still priced 2.1% less than the previous gen. I mean, this was a time where you as a customer actually mattered, and there wasn't a freaking shortage going on every other week, driving prices up like crazy. This is when car companies like Lexus would redesign a vehicle. It would be better than the product that it replaces, yet they would charge you less money for it. They were not trying to piss you off. They actually valued you. Everyone was fighting to get your business. And the starting price of a IS 250 in 2014 was $35,950. And the starting price of a IS 350 rear-wheel drive was $39,400. $465. Pretty reasonable, pretty great. Once again, I just appreciate the fact that it costs a little bit less than the previous generation. That's just amazing to me, pretty much unheard of nowadays. I mean, nowadays, car companies don't even make a single change for the new model year, and then they'll just hike up the price by $500 or $700 for literally no reason. I mean, it's just crazy. So yeah, I really respected this era of cars, and I really like this Lexus IS sedan. Really drives great. If you're shopping for one in the used car segment, try to find one that's certified pre-owned, at least from a Lexus dealership, and get the F Sport model in conjunction with the IS 350, because that will be the best for resale value purposes for sure. So hopefully you learned something new here. If you're an owner of this vehicle, leave your thoughts below and let us know how the vehicle is holding up for you. Thanks again for watching. I will have my next video on the end screen here regarding the Lexus GS. Click on it and I will see you there.